Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jill Carlson. I'm the marketing manager here at Argyle Social, and today we're here to talk about social media in higher education and what universities are doing to use social media. I'm really thrilled today. We have some fantastic presenters with me. We have Zack Barnett from the University of Oregon. He is the Director of Web Communications. Good afternoon, or good morning, Zack.
Hi.
And we also have Rebecca Bramlett, the Director of the Annual Fund for UNC Chapel Hill, a school near and dear to our heart here at Argyle. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And you can find all of our Twitter handles below our names. I'm guessing during the actual chat, during the webinar, it might be difficult for us to respond, but we'll definitely get back to you afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and leave question and answer at the end of the call. We'll leave about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you have questions that are coming to the surface of your mind as we go along, please either tweet them at us or save them till the end. Either way, we have someone here who's keeping an eye on the stream. Again, please tag all of your tweets if you can with social U so we get some good conversation going. We're recording this entire presentation, and we'll be sending up a follow-up email with both the recording, the slides, and also a two-page briefing to everyone who registered, whether or not they were able to attend. And with that, we're going to have some very, very short plugs, and the first one will be mine. Like I said, I'm from Argyle Social. We are a social media management dashboard for universities, NGOs, B2B, e-commerce platforms, and a lot of other businesses. And essentially, all our tool, what it helps you do is it helps you publish great content, engage with your community, and measure the metrics that matter. And if you want to check us out, there's about a 2-minute video over on our site, and head on over to argylesocial.com. And we're so thrilled to have the other two schools here with us because they're also our clients. And Zack, would you like to tell us a little bit about University of Oregon?
One of the fun things we do at the U of O is we celebrate champions. That means leveraging our athletic success and national attention to tell a story of overall university excellence. And we do that on our Celebrating Champions site, champions.uoregon.edu. It's a fun place where we integrate social media and try to make it a give and take between our web properties and our social media properties.
Excellent. And that actually started as originally an athletic site, is that correct?
Yeah, it was kind of a panicked effort that we threw together before the Rose Bowl in 2010.
And it took off.
And it took off. We now use it throughout the year. It's actually been really successful in the lead up to commencement in the spring.
Excellent. And Rebecca?
Yes, I guess so. Mine is more of a 15-second disclaimer rather than commercial. I just wanted to note that I am responsible or manage the social properties for our University Development Office as the Director of Annual Giving here at UNC. So when I talk about the work that I do, it's strictly for our development social media accounts. My fine colleagues in our University Relations area handle our main university in North Carolina, Chapel Hill sites. We all fall under university advancement, so I do communicate with them quite a bit, and we do try and work together. But I just wanted to share that disclaimer about what I do and what I'll be talking about today.
Fantastic. Great. And to give folks a little bit of a roadmap of where we're headed, first we're going to talk about audience size and growth and how you can grow your own audience. Then we're going to talk about how social presences have really changed from the side project to something that's very kind of core to what you're doing and how you need to nurture and defend those properties. And then lastly, we're going to talk about integrating social into your existing strategies, which is really excellent that we have someone both from a web communications perspective with Zack and then also the development perspective with Rebecca. And hopefully that'll touch on different issues that folks in the audience have. And then we'll have some Q&A at the very end. So let's go ahead and jump into audience size and growth. Everyone knows that people look to how many Twitter followers you have, how many fans you have, kind of as a litmus of how well you're doing in social media, although it's just one metric. So what we did is we actually compiled the list of the top 125 universities from the U.S. News and World Report. And just so you know which list that is, there's a short link there, argy/US News. And that is the university list, not the liberal arts college list. And we looked at the institutions both small, medium, and large, small being 5,000 and under, medium being somewhere in between, and large over 15,000 undergraduates. And we just wanted to see kind of how big their audiences were both on Facebook and on Twitter. And so I'm curious, and I know Zack and Rebecca and I all know the answer to this, but I'm curious to see if people have a guess in terms of who do you think has the largest Facebook audience? Ohio State, Stanford, Harvard, UT Austin, or the University of Oregon. And let's give people a couple seconds here to see what they say. And it might not be a surprise to anyone, but it is Harvard University, and it's actually pretty fascinating to see how head and shoulders above of everyone else they are, at around 1.7 million fans. And if you see there, Zack's school, the University of Oregon, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, number 5. So they're definitely hanging in the pack. What do you think this says about, I mean, look at that huge leap between Harvard and everyone else. What do you guys think that this says about audience size here between these schools?
Well, we talked about this as a group, and I think we actually were really curious. We would love to see the makeup of Harvard's followers. There's some assumption that they probably have a lot of national and international following, and of course the brand recognition of Harvard is so strong that there may be a lot of followers there that don't actually have an affiliation with the university, but they truly do just like it or like the brand. And also probably there are people like us out there that are following what they're doing because they are so recognized for the work they're doing on social.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I mean, I thought of this last night after we talked about it a little bit and thought about, that's where Facebook started.
Great point. Absolutely, the Thirsty Scholar pub there at the beginning of the social network, I remember. Yeah, and I also noticed there are a lot of really great sports teams in there as well. And then I just wanted to give people a little bit of a benchmark to see, where you are as a university in terms of your size of undergraduates. Just to give you a benchmark of what the averages are for the audience size. So for a large school, it's right around 100,000. For a medium school, it's around 50,000. And for a small school, it's about 10,000. And then the average audience size across all of these 125 universities is around 66,000 fans. So that's just a nice benchmark so you can see how you stack up. Of course, that's just one number in the whole mix. But of course, since U of O was up there, I would love to hear Zack's perspective on how you guys grew so quickly.
It's been interesting. In 2009, we had a very delicate conversation with our annual giving group who had the initiative to go out and set up a Facebook page. At the time, there were 5 or 6 of pages claiming to be the official University of Oregon Facebook page. We had a delicate conversation with annual giving. They had the most fans. Eventually, we just kind of took it over from the Central University office. At the time, it was April 2009, we had 3,600. At the time, they were called followers. And then over time, with a successful football team, we were able to leverage some athletic success to kind of hit critical mass. At the time, January 10th, 2011, I think we were at about 50,000 at the end of that game that we try not to think about here in Eugene. But now we're almost 4 times what we were then. So we like to think that we were doing something right in addition to having a winning football team. Our athletic department has a slew of social media presences, much of them larger than ours. So it's not just tied to athletics. I really do think it's about having good social skills, asking questions, staying engaging, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I threw that picture up there mostly because I'm from Glendale, Arizona, and don't live too far away from that stadium. So when we first spoke to Zack, you had this great phrase where you were talking about how to get people to come back, and I'd love for you to share that with everybody.
Well, my background is actually in journalism, and so when I think about writing a story for a newspaper or a magazine, you have to think about the broccoli and the chocolate cake. And the broccoli those are the facts in a news story. For us, those are the points of pride. Those are the scholarship winners. Those are the alumni doing great things that aren't necessarily the most compelling things on Facebook. The chocolate cake is the stuff to keep it interesting and keep it fun. For us, it's weather questions frequently. Hey, it's a sunny day in Eugene. That does 2 things for us. Where's the best place we'll ask people, where's the best place to hang out on a sunny day? Or how are you spending this, great weather day in Eugene? That does 2 things for us. It engages our audience, but it also tells prospective students in Southern California that the Northwest is not all rainy days. We do have our share of sunshine. So there is a subtle brand message there, but we're also remaining engaging. Where's the best place to get late night nosh? Keeping it light and keeping it fun, that buys us the time to sneak the broccoli in there, the scholarship winners, the faculty awards, those kinds of things that might not generate quite the buzz on Facebook, but we can still generate traffic to our website. So it's really an effort to make it a conversation, sort of balancing that diet between the vegetables and the desserts.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point that you need to have people consuming both for the post to even be seen in the news feed. And a short little side note I'm going to add here is if you don't know what EdRank is and don't really know what plays into it, I really recommend that you invest some time into learning about it, because the affinity, weight, and time decay of your posts really impact whether or not they're seen in your fans' newsfeed. So you could have, a bazillion fans, but if your posts aren't actually appearing in front of their eyes, it's not doing much good. And so this algorithm really helps your content be seen by the people who like you, who like the content when they want to see it. And we have a free webinar that you can go and access to if you want to dive into it. We did a whole hour-long webinar with EdRank Checker, and it's really important to be posting compelling content. Otherwise, if your posts continue to be ignored, then eventually your post won't appear in your newsfeed for your fans. So, and here we are looking at the Twitter followers in higher ed, and again, Harvard is out there #1, and we've got a few other medium-sized schools, but they're all about Ivy Leagues, and then lots of big schools. And what I really like that both U of O and UNC do is that they make their social properties easy to find. So Rebecca, I know you sent me this screenshot of where you guys list all of your properties at UNC, and this is across all these different platforms.
Yes, and that's actually one of the pages that our university relations team manages, and it just aggregates all the social media accounts across campus that we have communicated with and network with and know about. And we've identified over 500, and I think probably most people on the webinar would probably find the same thing or already have found the same thing on their campuses. We've got so many units and departments and schools who have ventured into the world of social media, and so everybody's doing it. And we really wanted to have a place at UNC where someone could go and say, okay, I'm interested in these areas and I want to follow them in these platforms, and we wanted to provide a place where they could do that easily. So we have that aggregator, which is really helpful campus-wide, and we actually have one on just our giving website as well for development that just lists our development properties.
Oh, wow. And Zach, I know you guys also have this index, but in addition to that, within your website, when you have, I don't know if it's the wireframes or a table of contents, but essentially next to every page that also has a social property, you also have those buttons there as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've integrated it into, most universities have an A to Z index, and so we've integrated the social properties into the A to Z index in hopes of someday making the social media index a little bit more creative, where we might highlight faculty members or do fun things with people who are active in social media, and just say, hey, it's not a website, it's not a social media presence, it's just how you need to connect with this particular group on the web. Go to the A to Z index. The other thing that we do with that social media index is it's sort of the carrot to our stick. We do have some brand standards for social media, and they're pretty light. We ask that they use the logo appropriately, that they use naming conventions that involve the University of Oregon or UO, and that they follow whatever platform they're on. They follow the terms of service. And in order to be on that list, we do check them out pretty thoroughly. So it's the carrot to our stick. We say follow the rules and we'll include you.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I have also heard of institutions that do that sort of monitoring and will actually, not just that they're following the rules, but remove them from the list if those pages are no longer active.
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone's not posting regularly and really making use of the site.
Yeah, that's.
And I'd also add, Jill, what's really helped us in having this and having a list on our giving site is going back to growing the audience, just to enable people to find us and even know that we're there. We make sure that we have the link to these pages on everything that we send out. So all of our other marketing materials, our direct mail solicitations, our newsletters, our e-communications, everything we're sending is we're making sure people know that we do have these properties, and we have one easy link where you can go and find them and figure out which ones you want to engage with.
That's great, yeah, because social media is so different than direct mail or email or any of that. It's just it's much more opt-in than anything else. So it's important for people to find a way to get connected to you. Yep. And another thing I wanted to point out, because Harvard does have this amazing presence on Facebook and Twitter, but something they do that's really unique on Twitter is that they create these lists, and so their lists have all of their research centers, all of their schools, and all you have to do is subscribe to that list, and you can kind of get a 360 view of what's going on at school across all of their campuses. And I think it's a fantastic way to people to not only keep track of what properties they have maybe on Twitter, but also just to showcase what's going on. You could do professors or research centers, schools or campuses, or even student groups. And that way, when you get the news from that, it's just an entire scroll of Harvard news, but it's happening all across all the different campuses and groups, and I really like that. I think lists can help showcase your university's many sides, from clubs to the arts to the sciences, everything in between. So let's go ahead and look at the average Twitter audience size. So we've got the large, medium, and small schools here, and the average audience size is right around 11,000. And as you see, the medium schools are pretty close to actually the large schools, which means they're really working on that one-on-one interaction. And Rebecca, you have the most fantastic example of this, and I'd love for you to share this example with us.
Sure. Well, first I'll say I think it's funny that Zack mentioned that when they first started their pages, they had the delicate conversation with annual giving because annual giving had their pages going already. We had not really a similar situation, but I know that here in our Office of Annual Giving and Office of Development, we had started Facebook and YouTube first. We've added Twitter and Flickr, but we did that at least a year before our University Relations Office got our main university pages off the ground. And I think that probably has happened a lot because as soon as Facebook especially became open to the broader audiences, development and alumni affairs professionals were trying to figure out how can we use this to our advantage. These are our alumni. This is our population. So we didn't have to have a similar conversation because we did name our pages for the annual fund or for development. But I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And so what we've done and what we've looked at, how we view these is that they're just one more really tool in our marketing toolkit and our not even so much our solicitation toolkit. It's really for us about community building and marketing and communications and relationships. So especially in annual giving, we have direct mail solicitations, emails, our phone-a-thon, we have personal visits with people, and now we have social media. It's just one more strategy. And we really try and integrate all of those together as much as possible because we recognize that we have some people that don't pick up the phone, but they open a direct mail solicitation, or they don't open the mail, but they do answer the phone, or they don't do any of those things, but they're on social media, and they may opt into our sites and tell us in that way that they want to hear from us in that way. So what we try and do, and this was a little campaign that we did, we produced a video that talked about the Carolina Way, which is just a concept here at UNC that's been around for a long time. Started by our coach Dean Smith and others, and it just really embodies, really a cultural sense of what being Tar Heel is all about. So we produced this video where we have a lot of Tar Heels, some famous faces, talking about what the Carolina Way means to them, and we sent that out to our alumni and donor population through email, and also, of course, had it on our YouTube page. And then took it a step further and asked people to communicate back to us what does the Carolina Way mean to them. And we said you can email it to us, you can post it on our Facebook page, or you can tweet about it with the hashtag. And we really just asked for that sort of engagement. And this was kind of really the number one way we get engagement on our pages is if we ask for it. And this was a big way to ask for it. And it was very successful for us. We engaged with over 100 people through the 3 different mediums when they talked back to us about what the Carolina Way means to them. We were able to kind of connect that information to our donor database, see who were donors, see who weren't, that gave us communication with people that we now can go out and see face-to-face, or just continue those communications online if we need to. So that was really a fun, fresh way for us to kind of take these things like a video one step further and really create a loop of communication with people.
Yeah, and I love the way that you guys were able to cross-reference your donor database too, to say, hey, how many of these people had lapsed in the past year, or how many of these people had already given, or how many people this is their first time. And I think definitely connecting it to your business goals is where all the power is in that.
Yeah, and we're even able to start now documenting that in our system that we've had that communication with them and where we've had that communication, which is just nice to be able to maintain that history of contact with the donor or with the alum.
I love it. And it's a great video, so people should go check it out.
Yeah, check out our YouTube page.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway here is just that you really need to meet your audience where they are and make sure that you involve them in the whole process. So if they want to communicate with you via email, great. If they tweet you a question, answer them via Twitter, and to make sure that you meet them where they are. So that's definitely how to grow and engage your audience. And now let's go ahead and talk about how, once you have the audience, how do you keep them there and how do you defend your social presences, both from external and internal pressures. So To get started, I know that different universities are at different stages of their social media evolution, and it's really important that folks kind of start out being able to answer these very simple questions. But why are you posting? What are your goals? What content are you sharing? So what are you going to say yes to? What are you going to say no to? And most importantly, how do these social media goals map to your overall marketing and PR goals? And I'm so glad that Rebecca provided us with this example, because it's their social media mission statement. And do you want to tell us a little bit about this, Rebecca?
Sure. So when we started engaging on social media, we knew right away that we need to actually have a statement and have a purpose as to why we were doing it. And those of us that were involved at the time and have continued to be involved knew, especially from the development standpoint, that we weren't going to get on social media and just use it as a tool to solicit. That we didn't think that would be successful, and we still don't. As I said earlier, we really see it as being about communication and education. So we sat down and came up with this mission statement that guides all of our decisions about what we post and how we use these social media sites. And it kind of, as we've highlighted, it tells why are we doing this and what are we doing, what is our content. And so from our office, we're just trying to educate our students, parents, and friends about development and why giving is important and what impact it has on campus. And we do that through mostly curating news. We do develop our own content as we can, but it's just as much about curating news and enlightening and entertaining content from across campus. And whenever it can, we like to emphasize that something has happened thanks to the private support, but not always.
And Zach, have you found that you know, different properties or different departments either have informal or formal written policies, and they kind of will range, or do universities sometimes have university-wide mission statements like this?
I think a little bit of both. I really like UNC's social media mission statement. I'm impressed that it's an individual group like Rebecca's office that really sat down and went through this. We use a social media worksheet that we took in large part from Vanderbilt University, and it's actually on our website, webcom.uoregon.edu. Click on social, and then that'll lead you to our worksheet, where we kind of ask these questions for departments. Before you build out your social media presence, answer these questions. One of those questions at the very end is, based on what we've written out in answering these questions, do we need to be on social media? Sometimes a more valuable decision in that process is no. We're not going to keep it up. We don't need to be there. That's just as valuable as jumping in and being productive.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And the reason I love this mission statement, because it's very clear. It's just, if it doesn't essentially fit the three things of what, if it's not entertaining or enlightening and it doesn't promote giving, it's a pretty easy 3-point test there to see whether or not you should post it. And I think the best thing about these policies is it really helps avoid mission creep and helps set some boundaries and barriers, even if they're loose and, you know, kind of informal, about what you can and cannot post. So we're about to jump into what people like to post on Facebook and Twitter, and I actually have a picture here of the fountain at Claremont McKenna College, which is where I went to undergrad. And this fountain is where you get thrown into on your birthday. It's called ponding, and it's also where all the seniors go when they turn in their senior theses with bottles of champagne, and everyone plays in the fountain. So when I think back to my college years, I think back to this fountain. Zach, what do you think back to?
You know, I went to tiny Pacific University in Forest Grove, Oregon, and I really think of the tiny campus. It's an intimate campus, and I think of the little square there, Strombley Square. It's where we had everything from, you know, I remember having English classes there. I remember celebrating commencement there. It really is the center of all activity, and that's really what I think of.
Yeah, Rebecca, how about you? What takes you back?
It's pretty much the same thing. I went to the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and we have the Sunken Gardens, which is the main place on campus, and it's not really gardens. It's just a big lawn, but it's where you go to throw the frisbee or lay out on a nice, you know, spring or summer day, or read in between classes or meet up with friends. So it's kind of that central heart of the campus.
And the reason why I'm asking this is because I know both of you guys have had quite a bit of success in showing your fans the campus and not just telling them about it. And so these two pictures are the beautiful azaleas in Chapel Hill, and some ducks swimming in, is that a pond or fountain? Fountain?
It's a fountain.
Yeah, fountain at U of O. And, you know, posts like these are really popular. I think the duck one had several hundred likes, which is pretty impressive.
People love photos, and especially this is a new building, so for a large portion of our audience is alumni who haven't been to Eugene in a number of years. So it's really fun to show campus and how campus has changed.
Yeah, and every time we post, in fact, we just posted a few more today on our Facebook page because the azaleas are in full bloom right now by our old well. And every time we post that photos and photo albums, we get those comments back that, oh man, I wish I could be there on a gorgeous spring day. And we do it in the fall too, and the leaves are changing, and when it snows, because that's so rare here. But those, you know, like I mentioned earlier, the main way we get engagement is by asking for it, and then the next best thing is just posting these visual images, I think, that really tie to people's emotions.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've done on our team at the University of Oregon, we don't have one person dedicated to social media, but we have given people on the web communications team either iPhones or iPod Touches. And the expectation is that they're going to go out and they're going to shoot photos and post them to social media in real time, no matter where they are. We had a guy at a track meet, having fun, relaxing on a Saturday afternoon. He's in our office, works for our team, posted a photo of that track meet on Saturday afternoon, and it was huge. It just blew up. It doesn't hurt that the track is huge at the University of Oregon, but it was just a beautiful sunny day and beautiful track, and we had several hundred likes on that post.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm. We try and do the same, and I think that can really capture some of the unique, fun things that people remember, you know, like the squirrels or something. And we actually just had a team member this week take some pictures at night, which, you know, I think a lot of times we, in our offices, you know, we're here 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 7, but we forget about evenings and weekends. But so I think it's important to get that kind of capture too.
Absolutely. That's great. And, you know, these emotional images are powerful reminders of why people love going to school there and why also they can come back. So it's perfect time, especially, I believe acceptance letters just went out to colleges. Is that correct?
They did, yeah.
Yes.
Is this the fateful month?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
So this is the perfect time to be posting lots of azalea photos.
Yes.
You know, and that's an important point is through the admissions cycle is there are different times to send different messages, and right now people are concerned about yield rate. So how many of those kids who get the acceptance letters actually end up in school and enrolled? That's really an emphasis here where we kind of focus on academic excellence during this particular time period.
Yeah, convince more folks to come your way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this next best practice is one that I believe came out of our conversation, Zach, when we had first talked. And you were talking about how social media is kind of that really unique place where you can do things that you can't really do elsewhere. And it's not, you know, it's not the newsletter, it's not the website, it's a place where you can really let your hair down. And I love this concept where you said, you know, we need to stop talking from our ivory towers and start speaking like we're sitting on diner stools.
Yeah, you know, we really see it as a dinner party with 200,000 of our best friends. We don't do a tremendous degree of moderation. We regulate according to Facebook's terms of service. And by and large, they are 200,000 of our best friends. And it becomes a really interesting give and take when you're able to sit back, relax, realize these are just people having conversations. Yeah, they might be on your Facebook page. Yeah, they might be in your living room. But nobody wants to go to a dinner party with a host who A, talks about himself or herself all the time, or B, tries to control everything, every conversation, every activity at that dinner party. So it really is a dinner party with a give and a take, and it goes both ways, and it's not just one-time communication for us. We really expect people to come, have fun. This is not a formal setting. This really is where the U of O lets its hair down and chills out. But we are going to tell you some of the cool things that we do think are cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great things that you guys recently did, Rebecca, is you hopped on a local movement that was going on during the NCAA. You want to tell us about this photo?
Sure, and I love what Zach just said, because nobody wants to go to a dinner party where someone just asks them for their money the whole time too. And so I think we kind of look at it the same way. So yeah, we thought this was a good example, somewhat of that, and also of joining things that are going on already online and social.
Mm-hmm.
So during the NCAA tournament, where we were headed to do pretty well, we thought, our point guard, Kendall Marshall, broke his wrist, unfortunately. So that really hurt us. But a little, actually started by one of our business school students, kind of social movement called the Pass First movement, but with the 5, because Kendall's number 5, kind of took off on Facebook, Twitter, and on a web page. And it kind of started with this: take these pictures of the 5 with you on your wrist, to show your support for Kindle and for the team, and it really even became more about you know, the pass-first concept of teamwork and going along with the Carolina Way concept. And it just really took off within our UNC community that we saw online. So we jumped right in and joined in on that too, because not everything we have to do or that we do on social has to be us pushing things out just to, you know, related to our mission. Sometimes it should be about just joining in the community.
Yeah,
and getting on board and having some fun.
Absolutely. And this next example, Zach, is I really love this example because it was a little bit crowdsourced, if I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. Over the course of last fall, we asked our fans different questions on Facebook, and in large part, you know, the people, we have 200,000 fans on Facebook. We have about 25,000 students at most. Even if we had, best case scenario, all 25,000, we would still be well short of that 200,000. We have to be cognizant of that a lot of these people aren't in Eugene. A lot of these people aren't on campus, haven't been on campus in a number of years. We need to engage them in ways that they can remember. So we asked a series of questions. Late night nosh, where's the best place to get grub at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who's your favorite professor? So there were everything from the fun questions to, I think of as the broccoli-based questions, like a few of our favorite professors. Who were your favorite professors? We got answers from people who graduated 30 years ago to people who are in school right now. We were able to sort of cobble together those answers. I'm not certain we followed Facebook's terms of service to a T, but we used those answers in a story on our Celebrating Champions website, then used social media to drive people to that site. In the lead up to the Rose Bowl on the Champions site, by and large, what we see is the most heavily trafficked stories are football-based, bowl game-based. What was really fun was until, you know, a couple days before the game, the most popular story on Celebrating Champions for that period, that month, was a few of our favorite professors. And it was a long story. The time on the page was you know, 8.5, 9 minutes, which also means we had people clicking other links so we could get that measurement on there. But it really was sort of potato chip style nuggets of information. My favorite professor was, why, because, and then you just go on to the next one. It was really kind of affirming for me in social media that, A, we could use social media in the lead up to a game, but also to tell sort of an academic story while leveraging some national attention from athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that story.
And then that's an example of what I mentioned before, sort of that give and the take. We're not just driving you to the website. We're driving you to social media. We're trying to make it more of a circle and less of a, you know, a one-way street.
Yeah. And I think the thing that you've definitely proven there is you really need to figure out where your audience wants to hear from you. So, you know, I don't know if that post would have been as popular if you asked people to submit it via email or through a newsletter or something like that. But the fact that it was a quick commitment, they could post it on Facebook, and then it turned into this really great piece of content.
Well, you know, that's a really important point. In past years, we had set up blogs where, you know, we call them like the graduation shout-out blog, and go to this blog to give your favorite graduate a shout-out. And we would try to use Facebook to drive people to that blog where they could comment. What we found was people were just commenting on Facebook. Don't make them leave Facebook to comment. That's the social place. That's what it's made for. So I think that's a really important point. Not only how does your audience want to hear from you, but where does your audience want to hear, you know, where does your audience want to tell you about things?
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a two-way. It's not just about listening to me. It's about me listening to you.
Absolutely. And that also brings us to the concept of content. And one of the things we were talking about is, you know, Facebook and Twitter have become really immensely helpful with your outreach to, you know, your entire community, whether that's current students, alums, professors, families, the community. And it's become even more challenging to defend your properties against internal challenges. So we've got a couple of them here. And the first one that we have is, hey, Zach, can you link to my online newsletter on Facebook? And I know that you've had this happen before. And how did you handle it?
Well, and in our department, we sort of operate under the assumption of we find a way to say yes to everybody, and that means saying no to a lot of things. And for a long time, Facebook was our way to say yes. No, you're not going to get a homepage feature. No, you're not going to get a news release. But we'll put you on Facebook. Well, Facebook has become so valuable for us with EdgeRank and other things. We just can't afford non-engaging posts. So we defend Facebook to a much higher degree. This happened a couple weeks ago. Can you link to my online newsletter? No, we're not going to link to your online newsletter, especially if it's a PDF. But here's what let's do. Send me your online newsletter. Send me the link. I'll read through it, and together our team will decide what's the coolest, most engaging story here, and we'll find a way to get that into a social media conversation. Schedule it for a Sunday night when we're not going to have anything else, when people are actually on Facebook, and we'll get that out there. And it actually worked. This was about a particular gift from a particular donor that was particularly compelling, and it just worked well for Facebook. But a call to action of read my newsletter, that's probably not going to get very much traction on Facebook. So find a way to say yes is sort of our philosophy. Sometimes that means being pretty creative.
Yeah. And Rebecca, you had mentioned you believe that UNC has over 500 social properties. So I'm guessing this one might come up a lot over there, which is, hey, will you post this to your department's Facebook page? You guys have so many more fans than we do, and I'm guessing that happens quite often.
It does, and not so much actually with my department. I'm probably sometimes the department that asks those requests to someone like Zack at UNC, and fortunately we work well together, and they will do that. And I try and only ask them when I know it's something that would work or be more engaging. So I'm sure that Zack gets that quite a bit, and that the folks in university relations here at UNC get that quite a bit. And they have been very kind to do that for us on occasion. In fact, they did share that video, the Carolina Way video, and helped us spread the messaging about that a little bit, and that really helped us gain even more traction to that and get some more feedback from people. But I'm sure that they also have to look at that and decide what do they think is the best story, or what do they think is the best post, and how to work with it.
What works well for us at the University of Oregon is, frequently we'll get those requests, and I'll be 50-50 on the idea. Honestly, I don't know. We'll throw it out there and see if it works. Frequently, I'll ask people, hey, why don't you post that to your departmental Facebook page? If it gets a little bit of traction, we'll grab it, and it'll say via University of Oregon Science and Research. So not only do you get the exposure from the post, but your local or departmental Facebook presence also gets that exposure. And like it says here on the slide, that really works out to be a win-win. And sometimes we don't grab it when it doesn't get traction. So it's sort of like, let's experiment on the departmental pages. If you don't think it's good enough for a departmental page, don't be talking to me about putting it on the university-wide page.
Yeah, kind of go to the local, local first, and then you can go to the big page.
And the advantage there is, you get to test it out in a little bit quieter environment, but then you also get this, you get double exposure there. You expose your presence and also get your messaging out.
Yeah, and at that point, they might even be like, oh, I didn't know that, development had a Facebook page. Great, right. I'm going to like it. And then it gets even more exposure. And the last challenge, Zach, I'm sure is one that you get just in general, which is just posts for everything. Hey, will you share this? Will you post this? And I think a great solution would be, Rebecca's mission statements. Essentially, you go back to the 3-prong test, or however many prongs you'd like. But essentially, you go back to the mission statement. If it doesn't fit, you decline it. If it does fit, then you accept it. And that's a pretty easy way to go ahead and set up the expectations there.
And that works well for any digital property that you have, whether it's a home page where you have editorial guidelines or a social media property.
Great. And those are just the internal challenges, but there are also a lot of external challenges, namely lots of folks with either foul mouths or bad things to say. And you guys definitely have very unified kind of concepts of how to handle either misinformation or obscenities or anything that's going on your pages. Rebecca, you were saying that you guys don't necessarily, and I believe you too, Zach, I believe that neither of you really delete things unless they go against the terms of service, but that you're there to, to clarify misinformation. Am I right?
Right, right. And along with the mission statement, we did create a comments policy. It actually was initially created for some blogs on our online web, our giving website, and just kind of website comments, but we've transferred it now, and it applies across all online sites, and so for social media as well. So we do have, it's a pretty standard comments policy of we will remove things that, like you have on the third listed here, obscenities or attacks. But other than that, we really don't delete. And we've had we've been doing social media in development since 2008, and I've only ever deleted one item. So that's very fortunate for us. We haven't had a lot of obscenities and attacks. That's not to say we haven't had misinformation or negative comments, but yeah, as a general rule, we don't delete it because I think that will lead to actually to more problems. We do just try and clarify if it's misinformation or provide customer service if it's a negative comment or discussion about a negative experience. And that's really that's the nice PR aspect of it, is that gives us that opportunity to address that problem and initiate some communication and try and fix problems and fix the negativity as best we can. And the other nice thing is, sometimes we do that and it still doesn't work, and they want to continue to engage in a negative conversation, and so we will reach a point where we stop, and within 4 or 5 posts of fresh content that we post, it's dropped off pretty much what you can see. Of course, the timeline now, if you really want to go down and dig, you can find it on Facebook or you can find it on Twitter eventually, but I would guess that most people aren't doing that and digging through. So eventually it disappears off the visibility.
Yeah,
the only thing I would really add to that is we will remove when there are commercial interests posting. It's against Facebook's terms of service. We've had some spam attacks, people trying to give out free iPads to people. So we do block certain words on Facebook. The other piece of it is it can really test my faith in social media, and almost every time it's restored. I really do believe that our Facebook followers or likers really are some of 200,000 of our best friends, and nothing adds credibility to negativity, or nothing adds, we don't have to go on and clarify, because our fans will. We'll clarify statements, but if somebody's out there being negative, you know what? There's 200,000 other people out there willing to jump on and be positive, and nothing builds credibility like your fans backing you up on Facebook. And time and time again, my faith in social media is questioned and then restored 15 minutes later when I see 3 fans jumping in there to say exactly what I wanted to say. They're also 3 times as credible as I would be as the University of Oregon.
Yeah, absolutely. That means you've built a very good community if they're willing to be your defenders on their own. And then, Zach, you also, you're telling me that your team relies pretty heavily on Facebook's terms of service, and that you used to set filters and alerts on different hashtags and search terms. Is that correct?
We used to pull a hashtag to the Champions website. We used to pull Pound and Go Ducks into a little box on the Champions website, and we had set up certain terms that would get blocked. And conveniently, we happened to play the University of South Carolina in a basketball game, and our athletic department was live tweeting with Pound Go Ducks, and we would replace certain words with the word duck. So instead of playing the Gamecocks, we were playing the Game Ducks that day. But again, it worked well for us. That was not, we weren't filtering on a social media channel. We were only filtering for the purposes of it being an official university website.
Absolutely. I think that's a great story. I love that. Great. I think all of the takeaway here is that essentially social properties have become the new homepage, and you really should defend them as such. It's really changed from that property where you used to put everything, say no to the homepage, say no to the newsletter, and put it on Facebook, and it's almost the exact opposite now. You really need to make sure that you have some policies in place, some content rules in terms of what's getting posted to figure out what's actually getting out there. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and jump in a little bit into how you integrate social into your already existing strategies and campaigns. And I'm just curious, so I'm going to ask folks on Twitter, how many people work on social media at your university? Is it 0 to 2, 2 to 4, or more than 4? Because I'd be curious to see if this is a one-man shop or if there's lots of different folks working on it. And the reason why I'm asking this is because we're about to jump in to the way that both of your schools do it. Now, Zach, your web communications office, you guys guide the entire strategy for the University of Oregon. Is that correct?
The online strategy, that doesn't mean we build every site, but yeah, we try to do the branding guidelines and try to do the digital strategy. I teach classes on everything from writing for the web to social media.
Yeah, well, I love the word guide because you have so many different resources for folks who work at University of Oregon or who are managing a property, and this is the checklist that you were talking about earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I was poking around on Vanderbilt's site, and I came across a worksheet that they use. They have a lot of great information at Vanderbilt, but we came up with this social media checklist with the idea of getting people to be strategic. And actually, I would like to adapt the checklist to website construction, where what outcome are you really after with this website? Instead of picking a pretty shade of green, let's talk about what business needs to be done on that website, what your end goal is. But this social media checklist has actually been pretty valuable for us in getting people to be smart about their presence on Facebook. The Department of Biology might have 250 people at best following on Facebook, but how are they going to maximize those 250 people? What kinds of conversations are they going to have? Don't just let your student worker dive in on a lazy summer afternoon and create a social media presence because you think it's cool. be smart about it, and have a plan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love, so this is publicly available and it's under your resources. I should have actually, I'll add the link when I send out the slides so folks can go ahead and access that too. And a shout out to Vanderbilt for having this already in place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's a little bit different where you are, Rebecca, and please forgive my horrible hand-drawn graphic here, but you do something really unique with this committee concept, and I'd love for you to share with everyone how social's done in your office.
Sure. So switching gears a little bit just in terms of how we actually manage the day-to-day operation, because there's no one person in our office that has social media written in their job description. In fact, nobody does. We've been doing it, for all these years just because we think it's important, and we've built it into our job descriptions. So we have a committee, and normally I would run screaming from the word committee or the concept of committee, but it's worked here and it's worked for us, and it's really just the best way we've been able to take it on and add it to our workflow. So we have representatives from the annual fund department, from our development communications staff, and from our IT staff, and we meet regularly, about monthly, just to talk about what we're seeing online, what new best practices are, when Facebook has updated their terms of service, and what does it mean for the next time we try to do a video or a competition and that sort of thing. And we also invite our university relations colleagues who are doing social media to those meetings so we can make sure we're staying up to date with their recommendations and their strategies for best practices. So that's great. And then what we also do is share responsibilities for actually curating the content and finding content and getting it posted. So we literally just have days where we're assigned to take turns, since we can't all do it every day. And that's really worked for us because it's about 9 people on the committee, and that just adds a lot of diversity, I think, to the content that we're finding and that we're coming up with and suggesting. And it also gives us 9 people that are out on campus at different times to take those pictures or find out information from different places. So that has worked really well for us. One challenge to that is making sure that the voice is staying consistent. Once we post that content, if we're adding some editorial commentary to it, which we do try and do sometimes to make it more personal, just making sure the voice stays fairly consistent. And I think we're able to do that because we meet regularly and we communicate regularly, and we have that mission statement to go back to and kind of all know in our minds what we're trying to accomplish.
Great. And do either of your teams have branding guidelines in addition, in terms of even stylistic or language type posts, how things are done?
We don't have specific branding guidelines. We pretty much just follow the university's overall branding guidelines and recommendations with everything that we do.
So our social media guidelines are actually part of the branding guidelines. It's a paragraph in the branding guidelines, which is a PDF print book, which drives me nuts. But we put a paragraph in there, and we link to a website because social media is always changing. I really like what Rebecca's saying about having that committee, that group approach. I think that makes a lot of sense. Here at the U of O, we don't have one person dedicated to social media. Within the Office of Communications, we expect social media to be one of the tools of all of our communicators, and I think that works really, really well. And like Rebecca said, we get a diversity of points of view. The challenge is balancing that voice, and that's where social media dashboards come in, where we can manage permissions and schedule and approve posts, and those things become really helpful because we get all the benefit of the variety of voices, yet we can still kind of be gatekeepers.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Not endorsing anybody by saying it doesn't work.
No, that's a great point. Well, we have about 10 minutes left, so I want to go ahead and hop into Q&A, and it looks like we've got lots of great people online right now. But before we do, I want to go ahead and invite people to join us next Thursday. We're actually having Understanding Facebook Insights Part 2. We had Part 1 about a month ago, and Jeff Woodman knows more about Facebook Insights than possibly anyone on the planet. And last hour, we weren't even planning to have a second webinar, but he just has so much information about it, we decided we had to have a more advanced one. So if you go to ar.gy/insights201, we'd love to have you guys, or anyone who's on the call, join us. And so with that, go ahead and hashtag your questions with SocialU. And I have a couple of them here, so I'm going to go ahead and farm them out to Rebecca and Zach. Do either of your staffs use interns to help post on social media? And if so, how do you manage them?
I guess I'll go ahead and jump in first. We actually don't, for our main sites in development, use interns. The way we do use interns and student volunteers is we do have a blog that is geared towards our student organizations, so we have them help create blog posts on that. And then we do have a Twitter account and a Facebook page for our student group that helps us with fundraising among students. So we do use them on those sites, particularly when we have events on campus or days where we're really promoting giving, and we use them not only on those accounts, but we ask them to use their own accounts to tweet about the events, use hashtags, retweet our tweets, and that sort of thing. So we kind of use them as volunteers to help us spread the message to wider audiences. And in terms of managing them, we work with them pretty regularly, so we trust them for the most part. Of course, we do monitor it through searches on the hashtags and watching what they're doing, and just do a lot of monitoring. But pretty much we just make sure up front they know the kind of message we want to put out there, and we'll even script it for them if they need help, if it's about a specific event or message.
Okay.
So that's how we've been using them.
At the U of O, we're not currently using student interns to help with social media. One of the things that I want to do is, like I mentioned before, is we can now manage permissions on who can publish and when and who can submit posts, but not necessarily publish those posts. I think that'll be a nice way to integrate a student voice, where we use a student account on our dashboard, and they can go out and they can submit posts to us, and then all it takes is us to schedule them and publish them.
Great.
So that's a direction that we'd like to go.
Okay.
That's great. Great point.
Okay, the next one is, what metrics are most powerful to communicate, what metrics are most powerful to communicate the importance of social media? So this seems to be coming from someone who maybe doesn't have a dedicated head count to social media, or folks are doing it kind of in their spare time, or as Rebecca, as you were saying, it's not written in anyone's job description. So what metrics matter the most to make it compelling enough to invest in social media?
Well, that's a good question. I think for us, it's being able to show how many people we are engaging with in actual conversations that may be initiated through social media, and then being able to tie that to a couple things. One, being able to tie it back to who those people are. Are they our donors? Are they our potential donors or alumni? And also being able to link that to just really being able to track the activity and our followers and fans and likers, and how much are they clicking on the content that we're posting, and does that basically turn into a conversion down the road at any time when they go on our online giving site and make a gift. And that is something nice that we are able to do through Argyle and through conversions, and actually making some correlations between our social media followers and how many of them are donors or become donors.
So if you're not using campaign tracking via Google Analytics integrated into your social media presence, you are missing out. And different social media dashboards will allow you to do it. But you can do it for free on your own, creating the campaign tracking URL and using a URL shortener in your social media posts. If you're not doing that, you're missing the boat, because what that campaign tracking URL does via Google Analytics is it allows you to see what those people do. If they come from a social media outlet that you've driven them to, it tells you which post, it tells you what they're doing on your site. You need to be smart via Google Analytics and sort of integrate your social analytics with your Google Analytics in order to really drive home that return on investment. The other metric that we look at the U of O is the share button. Whether they're sharing our content on our website or whether they're sharing one of our posts, that's huge for us. The credibility of one of our fans saying, this is cool, I'm going to share it with my friends, is far greater than any, the value of that is far greater than anything we could do on our own.
Absolutely. And even in the algorithm, it's actually shares are weighted much more heavily. So they're definitely the most valuable type of consumption that happens on Facebook. This is a great question. So there's so many different networks out there: Pinterest, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. How do you prioritize where you spend your time and how your team uses those different platforms?
I'll go first again. That's a great question, and I think for us it's been about starting with Facebook, which is where we started because that was where the majority of our fans or our audience is and continues to be, I think. And we added Twitter later, and really we have YouTube and Flickr just to host kind of the content. Anytime we're doing videos or photos, we have them in those places. And then we can also get them to Facebook and Twitter. So us, it's been a slow build, and we focus mainly on Facebook and Twitter because we think that's where our biggest audience is. We're not looking at this time on Pinterest or other sites because we just need to keep our focus to where our masses are. I think that's how we've done it. And I always recommend kind of going back to some of what Zach was saying earlier, but going through that checklist and figuring out just why are you doing this to begin with, and what are you trying to accomplish? I'd also add how much can you really manage, and really trying to pick what's going to get you the most return for what you're trying to accomplish. And if it means you can only be on Facebook and not be on Twitter, I think that that's okay, because you want to at least, whatever you start, you need to be doing it right, and you need to be a part of that community and understand how it works and really be engaging on it before you try to add on a whole bunch more and then just kind of semi-be on all of them. Mm-hmm. That's the perspective I always take on it.
Yeah, for us it comes back to what Jill said earlier is we meet our audience where they are. They're on Facebook. Twitter's good for us, but it's not as great as Facebook. And it comes down to that's a worldwide Facebook audience. And one of the things is, how do you engage students and alums who are not on campus? We use Facebook. We don't use Facebook to promote, hey, auditions for marching band are this week, go. No, there's 200,000 people out there. 2,000 of them might be interested by that. We have to be broad. We have to think we need to engage people in Kuala Lumpur and engage people in Vernonia, Oregon. What are we going to do that? We ask questions. It's a U of O community. We ask community-based questions. And by and large, a large part of our audience is alumni.
That's a great point. That's absolutely a great point. Someone's wondering, they're asking, do you schedule your posts, and if so, has that affected your engagement? Have you seen an increase or decrease? And do you schedule your posts?
We do. We don't schedule all of them. We do schedule some of them, and we schedule them when it works to our advantage strategically. If there are things we want to schedule to go over the weekend and someone won't be able to do it immediately. We've also really used the scheduling feature in order to post things, when we know, if we post, around basketball season. If you don't know, basketball is pretty huge here at UNC Chapel Hill. So, we found some articles about some of the players that really had some nice human interest feels to them, and so we would schedule them to post right before a game was about to start, and and tied it into that. So we will schedule if we have some strategic reasons about we exactly want it to go at a certain time to line up with something else that's going on.
We like to have a good mix, and last weekend was a good example. We really like to capitalize on people sitting in their office on Friday afternoon that's when they're on Facebook. So we will have something either scheduled or fun and engaging for Friday afternoons. We generally try to shoot for that. The other thing that we frequently schedule for is Sunday nights. In between, we might have posts scheduled. We might have, I mentioned the track meet on Saturday afternoon. That was huge for us. That was a little bit of the chocolate cake to balance the Sunday night scholarship. And by and large, that Sunday night scholarship post, it was really, really cool because I thought, yeah, we're going to put this up Sunday night. We'll get some likes. We had 12 comments within 45 minutes. That's huge for us. Wow. It was a student winning a cool national scholarship, but by and large, that story is told a lot. So to be able to isolate that and get that, I think in large part that comes from the engagement that we get with Saturday afternoon's chocolate cake photo of the track meet. So yes, I guess in short, we do schedule, but we have to keep it fun and engaging in addition to scheduling sort of the points of pride.
You're scheduled, but you're still human.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can't always schedule everything because if you think about how people are using, these sites and these tools on their own and in their personal use, we're not scheduling things for our personal use. We're tweeting as things happen and it's real time. And so we want to make sure we're doing that fun chocolate cake real time. Oh, I'm walking across campus and there's a hilarious, squirrel carrying a hamburger or something like that. Let me tweet a picture of it or Facebook a picture of it. So I think it's nice to be able to have balance.
Yeah, or we just beat the Huskies in football. That's huge. You know,
Yeah.
we sent one of our web communications guys to the Rose Bowl. He live tweeted the game, not necessarily from an athletic sense, but from a fan sense. He live tweeted. He handed it over to me. I was in Oregon. I live tweeted. We jumped on Facebook as the clock was winding down. I had Google Analytics open. I was watching in real time people coming from Facebook to the website, going to stories. Yes, we won. Here's a photo of the winning team. But here's a link to a story about a service project that we did in Pasadena the day before the game. That flow for us is invaluable. So to be able to capitalize on that enthusiasm, that post-game win, I love my Ducks, I want to give a gift. I actually want to read that story about the service project that tried to feed me 2 weeks ago that I wasn't interested in. That enthusiasm is incredible. You can't put a dollar value on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a fantastic story to end on, and I know some folks probably have a meeting that's budding right up to this. So I cannot thank you both enough for joining us and for sharing all of your insight for what's going on both at University of Oregon and our beloved UNC. So thank you both, Zach and Rebecca, for a fantastic time.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're going to be sending out the recording with the slides and the 2-page briefing either tomorrow or Monday to everyone who registered, whether or not you're able to attend. So thanks so much, Rebecca and Zach, and we'll catch you later.